Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome to the second day of the Sparkability Virtual Summit. I'm Patch Dulay, the founder and CEO of the Spark Project and your host and moderator for this summit. Before we start our session this afternoon, we will just reminding everyone that we will have time for some question and answers later. So if you have any questions or insights that you would like to share, you may do so by leaving a comment on our discussion box below, and we will get to that. Also, we also have a worksheet available to supplement your learning this afternoon. So you can do that. You can download that at our website, sparkability.org, if you haven't yet. Hey, so I'm so happy this afternoon for this session to have not one but two of my favorite accountants today to help us figure out our financials as we respark our social enterprises in this better normal. They're my favorite accountants because for those who know me, you guys all know that I'm allergic to numbers. I'll avoid accounting, finance, and any numbers, any chance I get. But our speakers today has helped me appreciate them better. Now I'm not that allergic with financial statements anymore, and I know how to read them already, thanks to them. Joining us today is Ms. Pinky Po and Vini Salonga of ATBP Co., or also known as ATBP. Pinky is a partner at IBAPA. She's a business administration and accountancy graduate of the University of the Philippines, Diliman, a certified public accountant, and holds a master's degree in entrepreneurship for social enterprise development at the Ateneo Graduate School of Business. Pinky's corporate career spanned over 20 years, from her first job in Unilever to heading internal audit for Schlumberger Oilfield Services based out of the US, to managing director of BCC Credit Corporation, which she co-founded to serve the needs of those who could not access affordable credit. Since 2006, she has devoted her time to building social enterprises and to teaching personal and business financial management. She is co-founder of Geekonomics and serves as its CFO, and is also on the board of Click Escuela and of the Ateneo Center for Social Entrepreneurship. While Vini is Atibapa's managing partner. He's a graduate of accountancy at the University of Santo Tomas. He has served in the social enterprise sector since he joined Geekonomics in 2014 and is highly exposed to the specialized needs of social businesses and the communities they serve. Vinny has attended numerous seminars on accounting and taxation and has gained valuable experience and technical expertise as the lead in charge for client engagements. He's he also served as a mentor during Sparkability Bootcamp, which we held last October 2019. So with that, let's all welcome Miss Pinky Po and Vini Salonga.
Hi, Patch.
Hello.
Can you hear me well? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Hi.
Thanks for joining us this afternoon.
Yeah,
Very excited
Our pleasure.
to learn from you. Although I think I would speak for a lot of our attendees this afternoon that most of us, when we talk about accounting and finance, ano kaagad, wait, hindi ko kaya. But I'm very happy that you're with us this afternoon because I know for a fact that you can, help simplify things for us and help us understand and appreciate better finance and accounting for our social enterprises, especially now. Minsan nakakalimutan din natin na okay, because of this new normal, we're gonna pivot, we're gonna do new things, and then we go ahead. Okay, let's market, let's go out there, but not really taking that time to step back and look into our financials and see how we can work it out. So I know that we have a jam-packed session with us this afternoon, and I'm looking forward to really learning all those things from you.
Thank you, Patch. Thank you for inviting us. Thank you, YCL team, for inviting us. And we're very excited to share this.
Okay, go ahead.
There will be parts where you'll feel siguro nosebleed. So we're here to try to make it as friendly as possible. We're your friendly neighborhood accounting firm. So with that, I'll do a very quick intro of ATBP. We are an accounting firm. We provide accounting, tax services, business process audits, and financial advisory for social enterprises. So with Vini and I are so blessed to be part of this team of co-warriors who share the mission of helping social enterprises. We with the mission of elevating their levels of financial literacy, because understanding finance helps you make better decisions, and better financial decisions helps us build stronger social enterprises. Why do we want you to be stronger, better, and stable, so that you can continue to uplift your beneficiaries and your partners? Kasi if the business is not going well at wala sustainability, wala din yung mission natin, mamamatay at some point. So with that, we'll go on to the topic for today, which is financial planning for social enterprises. So the first statement I will make is that no one knows really how this will fall out. None of us have a crystal ball to know exactly how this will fall out. But what we know for sure is that this is not the first time this has happened. There was the Great Depression already. There have been 2 world wars. There was the oil crisis, the Asian financial crisis, the housing market collapse. There was 9/11 and so many more. But more important, we know that this will not be the last. With all the ecological disasters that are happening and more, talagang there will be more disruptions that we will have to face. But it's good to know that through all these times of crisis and all the ups and downs, many companies have actually survived. There is this, what they call the 100-year club. So as the name says, these companies are over 100 years old. I'll just mention a few very familiar names to you. There's General Electric, GE, Coca-Cola. They were both founded in 1892, making them 128 years old. You know those jams we love in Smuckers, Target, UPS, Nikon, they're all over 100 years old. So they went through all those disasters that I earlier said and managed to stay around. So these survivors, we will find as we go through our own crisis, as we go through this coronavirus pandemic, which is the crisis of our time, the survivors will find a way to pivot their businesses. They will find new opportunities, and they will manage their cash well so that they can weather the crisis and emerge even stronger. So here there's a saying that we kind of love, which is revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, but cash is king. So the mythical origins of this is that the common consensus, it says former Volvo CEO, Per Gillenhammer, was the one who said this first. And he used this while discussing the global stock market crash of 1987. During that time, it was companies with ample cash reserves, that weathered the markets way better than those who have poor cash management. Because after all, when you look at it, why is revenue vanity? Because sometimes, I have 10 million pesos in revenue. That's a very nice top line number. But if it's not profitable, then medyo vanity lang siya kasi walang sanity kung hindi profitable yung ginagawa natin. Find ways to make it profitable. And so nice top line lang number ang revenue without profit. And if we're not able to collect it, the revenue, it's a gift. I always tell my team that revenue, unless collected, is a gift. So as much as we as social entrepreneurs love to gift, we do need to keep our businesses sustainable. And we need cash to keep it going. So I'll turn over to Vini for now.
So thank you, Tita Pinky. So as she mentioned, she mentioned about sustainability. So you guys might be wondering now, how do you know if you're on the right track or you're on the way, you're on your way to sustainability? So let me show you 3 images. And what do these three have in common? So this is like a Fitbit watch, a ruler, and a thermometer. So what do these three things have in common? All of them measure stuff. So we are in the age where we almost measure everything. So these three things are just examples of that. Because what you cannot measure, what you cannot manage, you cannot manage what you cannot measure, right? So yon, no, that's why knowing your numbers is very important. So with that, I'll go into our discussion outline. So we'll be discussing your financial vital signs. So we have three. We'll go through your cash flow, your profit and loss statement, and your balance sheet. I know it sounds intimidating, but we'll make it as simple for you guys to understand as possible. And then after that, we'll go through, we'll talk about forecasting, budgeting, and some end with actionable points, a summary of your actionable points. So,
Oh, this is me again. Okay.
yeah.
So, of the three main financial statements that you just saw, the intimidating one, hindi. So some of you who are finance people, it won't be, but we're just like trying to really like generalize. So we will start with cash flow because at a time like this, not running out of cash is the most important thing, diba? Without cash, we can't pay our people. We cannot pay for logistics. We need cash to continue operating. So no matter how big or small your business is, cash is king. So this is Richard Branson. Most of you or all of you would know him. He has business interests in so many industries: airlines, space, hotels, music, telecoms. Regardless of which industry, he says that cash is the lifeblood of his businesses. And in fact, I think his airline now will really need some government help because it's cash that's going to run out. And then the next quote I will share with you, then, is by Michael Dell. I love this analogy actually. Kasi, diba, as entrepreneurs, we keep focusing always on growing on our markets. I want to scale. I'm expanding. I want to open new stores. I want to franchise. And if we don't watch our cash, how will we fund our expansion? Will I have enough cash to support the higher inventory levels? Because more stores, more inventory is needed. More salespeople are needed. So it's parang if you're just looking at that without watching your cash, it's like driving a car where you're looking at your speedometer and you're getting so excited, you're cheering yourself on. Yes, 100 kph, 120, 150, 180, 200, and then poof, your car comes to a stop kasi wala na palang gas. So parang that's like if you in a business, like you didn't refuel, if you didn't sell enough, or you didn't collect what you sold. So you could be expanding, but you ran out of cash because your cash pala was tied up in inventory because for a store to look good, you need 4 months worth of inventory and you didn't have 4 months worth of cash to be tied up. And so that brings us to our first vital sign. So how do you plan your cash after saying all that? What are the important things to watch out for? So we're going to give you a little framework. Now, in planning your cash, we propose our 3 Ps. It's preserve, prepare, and prosper. Based on how much cash you have on hand, how much is going out, how much is coming in, within the time frame that you are planning for. So prior to this webinar, as Patch mentioned, we sent a guide for doing your cash plan. We sent actually 3 templates: a monthly, a weekly, and a daily. Diba? Some people say, ang exage ng daily. Alam niyo, when your cash is down to 2 weeks and you're selling every day, right? Hindi exage ang daily. Kasi so we sat down kasi with all our clients and some of them had more cash, so we did a monthly, meron kami ginawang weekly, at meron talaga kami tinutulungan namin daily talaga. So, yon, it's not exage. So we set you the 3 and you just figure out what works for you. So Vini will work you through it.
So if you guys can look at the template, which I have here on the screen. So you can start with your actual cash on hand. So magwalis-walis kayo dyan, hanap kayo ng cash nyo. So you start with your actual cash. What's in your bank, what you have on hand. And then you add all of your expected inflows, which will be coming from your collections, from your cash sales, And maybe other inflows. So if you have like grants, you've applied for grants, so you might have some tranches coming in the future. You might want to plug that in as well. And then you deduct all of your expected cash outflows, which will be common examples of those are your payment to your suppliers, your rent, your payroll, and your other monthly expenses. And then you will end up with your ending cash balance. So as Tita Pinky mentioned earlier, you can do it. You can do this monthly, weekly, or daily, depending on the need. Okay. So with that, um, depending on your cash need, we will start with how we need to know how extreme or how much cash you really have. So if you're really in a crunch, if you're in an extreme need for cash, the first P will be our advice to you. So which is to preserve. So these are some action points that we want you guys to look into when you have an extreme need for cash. So cash plan as often as possible. So yun nga, each day that you are, we mentioned kanina na the time, depending on the need of your cash, you can do your cash plan weekly, daily, or monthly. So if you're in extreme need for cash, we recommend you do the daily planning kasi each day is really critical to the survival of your business. You might also want to consider, you have to extend the life of your cash, but within the following three parameters. So the need of your people, the need of your clients, and also keep in mind your government payables. So I just want to share lang for our own business. Before the lockdown started, we actually had a COVID scare. A client of ours called me actually, that one of their employees was a confirmed cases. Actually, siya yung isa sa mga unang confirmed cases. He was PH 15 pa yon, 15 pa lang. So after the call, we took action agad kasi the health and safety of our team took priority. So pinauwi namin lahat, and then we had to immediately act on how are we gonna do our setup. So it was just like a week, literally a week before the lockdown. So we were able to digitize everything, work remotely. So we were able to transition na before the lockdown. So when it was actually officially announced, more or less, medyo okay na kami. And then after that, we sat down as partners and talked, magkano na lang ang cash natin because we need to know how much runway we have. And if we have enough to pay our team, the expenses we're gonna incur. So when we looked at it, mabuti na lang we have until June 15. Na even if nothing comes in, we're set until June 15. So then we made the decision to keep all of our people, pay in advance. We also paid them in advance kasi di ba they had to prepare for the lockdown. So para they have enough money to buy all the supplies and their needs, so they didn't have to scramble and ano. So with that, our next step was to really check how else can we get our cash. So we really needed to double down on our collections. So you guys might need to look then, no? This is very important kasi yun nga, as Tita Pinky told us kanina, revenues until collected is a gift. So collecting your receivables plays a very important role into the survival of your cash. And then lastly, if you're a trading or a manufacturing company, so I know you guys have inventory. Check your existing inventory and try to sell what you have on hand first, and then keep your production to what you can really sell. We have to manage because producing inventory have costs. So try to sell muna what you have on hand, and then produce what you can really sell. And then lastly, apply for government subsidies and allowances. So an example of this is yung SSS SBWS, which if you applied for, they give it to MSMEs. They give 8,000 pesos for each employee. So for us, sobrang laking tulong nito kasi when we received the first wave, we have 7 people on our team, and that's already 64,000 that we were able to save on cash na na-subsidize ng SSS. So other examples of these government subsidies are yung camp ng DOL, yung SAP ng DSWD. We can give those to you guys as supplementary after this presentation. So you have a reference lang on what to look for and what to apply for your employees then and for your team. So next, with that, you might be wondering now what measures will help you monitor your cash better. So these are the financial vital signs that you have to consider with regards to your cash management. So the first one is burn rate, and then we have runway, and then your cash cycle. So let's start with burn rate. So what is actually burn rate? It's the amount of cash that you actually use each month to keep your operations going. So I'll go through some examples later of what those expenses or outflows could be. And yeah, as we mentioned earlier, this can also be calculated based on a weekly or monthly and daily time. So ang standard really is monthly. Pero yun nga, depending on your need, it can be as frequent as daily or as frequent as weekly. So yeah. So how do you calculate your burn rate? Okay, matakot ha. We're going to start with formulas now. Huwag muna kayo matakot. So let's start with burn rate. Burn rate is basically just your total cash out per month. So what are examples of this? So you have your salaries, your rent, your utilities. If you have subscriptions like accounting software subscriptions, or you have online platform subscriptions, yun, plug those in as well. And of course, don't forget your taxes. This is very important because these come with penalties, huh? So don't forget about paying your taxes. And then we also have net burn rate, which is just your cash out per month, but it takes into account your cash in as well. So what are your sources of cash in per month? These are the very common examples: your collections and your sales. Okay. Okay, so this is an example, a sample computation of your burn rate. So given all of these cash outs, okay, and with these respective amounts, your total gross burn rate can be is 20,000 for a month. So this is an example lang. So what about net burn rate naman? Okay. So given that now you have your 20,000 na cash out, and say you have collections amounting to 7,500 and sales of 2,500 expected that month, for a total cash in of 10,000, your total net burn rate would be 10,000. So now you might be asking, which of the two burn rates should I use? For us, our advice is depending on your cash need. So let's say we're in the extreme cash need. We recommend that you guys go for the gross burn rate kasi it's the more conservative of the two. And the gross burn rate, as the net burn rate, takes into account your cash in, your collections, and your sales. And in a cash crunch, we have to plan for the worst. And there's more certainty in incurring expenses rather than being able to collect your receivables or being able to sell your stuff or perform your services. So yon, moving on, our next financial vital sign is your runway, which is this is connected to your burn rate, because your runway is the amount of time your company has before it actually runs out of cash. So yeah, this is next formula na tayo, okay? So we start with your actual cash on hand. So yung current cash nyo over your burn rate. So let's start with a gross burn rate muna. Okay. So I'm citing the figures I'm citing here, I just picked up from our previous example. So it's still 20,000 and 10,000 to make it simpler for you guys. So assuming that we have 100,000 in cash and your gross burn rate is 20,000, that means you have a runway of 5 months. So what if now it's a net burn rate? So it will be just over 10,000, and then so we have a runway for 10 months. So again, as you can see, the gross burn rate talaga will always result to a lower runway. Kasi nga, it just accounts for your total cash out. So in a cash crunch nga, we really recommend na you plan for the worst. So we advise that you use the gross burn rate. Okay. And then lastly, you have your cash conversion cycle, which is basically how fast you're able to convert your cash and get your cash back.
Ben?
Yeah.
Can you go back lang? They might be asking themselves what is a good runway. So I'll just a bit. Yeah. So in case you guys are wondering, like, what's a good runway? So during this time when most of us are in survival mode, and especially most of us are startups, the difference in your decision making, if you have a 1 month runway or a 3 month runway or a 1 year runway, makes all the difference in the world. So it's important to know it. Normal business wisdom will tell you a 6 month runway is good in terms of I have cash for 6 months. So I can make a decision calmly. Hindi kailangan panic mode agad on day one. Even in your personal life, diba, when you do personal financial freedom things, they will always like suggest to you, have 6 months living expenses in cash savings. Para na you're not panicking and you have time to react, to act, to think. So in a company, the same. But I know that it's not a luxury that everyone has, but it's something to work towards and build up to para hindi tayo nagdi-knee-jerk reaction. At saka, hindi rin pwede sabihin na parang, if 6 months is good, why not 2-year runway? Ay, medyo, naman yon. Parang, it's not good cash management naman to have so much in cash, like to have 1 year's worth of expenses sitting just in cash. Hindi rin. So, too much is not good. Too little is not good. Goldilocks principle tayo dito. So, more or less, a 6-month runway gives you, time to make decisions na hindi panic. So just as an wisdom, but of course we react and adjust accordingly. Yeah. Back to cash conversion cycle, Vin.
So yeah, as I mentioned, it's the amount of time it takes your company to convert its cash, your investments back into cash. So there are 4 factors: your cash, your accounts payable, inventory, and your accounts receivable. So from cash, your payment to your suppliers is also accounted for here. Dito. I'll show you guys. So there are three factors when it comes to your cash conversion cycle. So it takes into account your days inventory outstanding, which is the amount of time it takes you to move your inventory to a sale. So how long it takes you to get it to your client or to sell actually. So your day sales outstanding naman is the amount of time you're able to, from the time you're able to bill to the time you're able to collect, that amount of time. And then your days payable outstanding is the amount of time you are billed by your supplier to the time you're able to pay them. So that accounts for your cash conversion cycle. So I'll show you lang the formula for each. I know it's overwhelming, so that's why we made a simpler version lang, so you can estimate how long your cash conversion cycle takes. You can account for this, but if you want to estimate right now, these are just some examples here. So yon, as I mentioned kanina, your inventory is the number of days it takes for you to sell your inventory. So for days sales outstanding, you can measure it in credit terms with your clients. So yun, how long you bill your clients. So if it's 30 days, 45 days, 60 days. And same with your supplier. Kung ano yung terms nyo with your suppliers, is it 30 days, 45 days? So if you add all of these, that you will come up with your cash conversion cycle.
Inilagay ko lang yung formula talaga tama kanina, yung mga divided by cost of goods sold. Kasi sabi ko kay Vini, kung may nanonood na finance na accountant or finance professional, baka sabi, hindi ano ba itong ginagawa ng dalawang ko? So, we put that as but in reality, it's this. Like, normally ba, how long does it take you to collect? 45 days ang normal. You'll know the feeling. Mm-hmm. The more that you really analyze your numbers.
Yeah. Okay. So let's try putting an example for cash conversion cycle. So for example, we start out with your warehouse or your stock room. So how long does it take you to move your inventory and to get it to your client or sell it? So let's say it takes you 10 days. And then from the time you're able to bill, so that's your day sales outstanding now. And then the amount of time you're able to bill to the time you're able to collect, let's say it takes 45 days, which is your day sales outstanding. And then lastly, the amount of time it takes for you to pay your clients, your suppliers, let's say that's 15 days, which represents your days payable outstanding. Adding your days inventory and your day sales, and then deducting your days payable, your cash conversion cycle takes you 40 days. So from the time you're able to move your inventory to the time you're able to collect and then pay your supplier takes you 40 days. Now, I'll cite another example. So for example, ngayon, your days inventory takes you 30 days instead of 10 kanina. And then ito is 15 instead of 45. And then the amount of time you're able to pay your supplier is 20 instead of kanina, 15. Now it just takes you 25 days. So the difference, the reason why the second example was able to move his collection, he's able to collect faster, is because na-shorten niya yung amount of time he is able to collect from his clients. And at the same time, he was able to extend his terms with his supplier, although it takes him 30 days to move his inventory. So these are the three things you need to balance when you're taking into account your cash conversion cycle. Kasi the shorter the cycle, the faster you're able to get your cash back and reinvest it as working capital for your operations. Okay?
Yeah, so at this point, you might be asking na, teka lang, lahat ng sinasabi niyong cash plan, wala na nga akong cash. Nagkakape na lang siya at nagmumuni-muni. Pero, sir, what if I have no cash? Or I see that I'm going to run out of cash really soon. Like, what burn rate? What runway are you talking about? I'm crashing already. So do I borrow? Like, how do I keep this going? Because the reason you ask yourself that is because you still believe in your business. And I just overextended before, or I didn't manage my cash well, or I didn't know how to manage your cash, but I believe in my business and I will be back up and running when this crisis is over, or I'm starting to do things right to get back up. So the accepted wisdom in general is in good times, you go for debt, and in bad times, you go for equity. The reason being, you go for debt in good times kasi the assumption is that your business returns will beat the cost of your borrowing, that your business returns will be higher than whatever interest rates you're paying. But in bad times, you don't know how long it will take to get your money back. So that's where you kind of go for equity. So equity, syempre sabi mo, equity, wala na nga ako. I don't have capital anymore to put in. So there's, because we're in the SE world, the SE wisdom says that let's apply for grants. Let's apply for, maybe we have soft loans. When I say soft loans, yung angel money that will say, sige, like pay me back, like whatever, longer, known sometimes as the bank of mom and dad, whatever it is, or friends and fools, as Patch likes to say in Spark. Pero, we look for those soft sources of money first. There's plenty. You can also, actually, we will discuss this in further detail later. You can look through what you have. There are assets that you can convert to cash. Like, baka meron kayo dyan na, as Vini says nga, inventaryo na matagal na nandyan. If you make it na lang, if you're not able to really sell it, is-sale. Pero if you convert it to cash right away, or you might have some equipment there that you're really not using, whatever it is, try to build up that cash. But yeah, so in general, debt in good times, because you can beat the cost of borrowing. But in bad times, medyo softer dapat ang sources ng money. Yeah. So in this scenario, so we go to the next scenario. So Vini discussed kanina yung preserve, like I have to stay alive. Yun yung preserve. So now prepare. So in this scenario, I have a little more elbow room. Kaya kong mag-discard ng konti. Kasi hindi naman ganun ka-crunch yung cash ko. So, yung tipong, if I have nothing else coming in, I can pay my people pa for 3 months or 4 months. And I know I will be back, and I know I will stay in business. So what do? Since you're paying salary, and presumably business is a little slower than before, since a lot of you are here are medyo in non-essentials, maybe this is a good time to strengthen internally. So you can invest to preparing your team for the stronger company that you're going to be after. You can review your process and your operations. Dati wala kang time to do that. Gawin mo ngayon yun. Prepare your processes. Baka naman you can shorten your production or delivery time by, let's say, 2 days because you found a tweak that you can do. Then you have time to sit down. Like in our case, like during this lockdown, we actually finally finished our manual of operations. Kasi we never could carve out enough time to do it. And now, dahil walang nagta-travel, yung travel time to and from the client, naging freed up time, we finally finished our manual of operations. So that parang when we scale, may masusundan na mabilis kaming training manual. This is also an opportunity to upscale your team. Sabi nyo, finance ang hinahanap namin, this is related to finance kasi if you have the money to do it and nagbayad ka na rin lang ng sweldo, gawin mo na to. You upskill your team. You teach, new skills, especially tech skills kasi we know it already. We're all going to have to digitize whether we like it or not. If not all, some part of our process. Skills that will allow your team to multitask within your business. And then in our case, like kung dati encoder lang siya ng expenses into vouchers, upskilling now made them capable of doing bank reconciliations or yung mga reconciliations that the client needs to better understand the business and the like. And then this third one, extending credit to clients to keep loyal clients. So what happened with us is since we had a little elbow room, we knew we had money until June 15. Assuming walang papasok. And we knew that any collection would extend that. Kasi pasok na lahat ng expenses eh. Collection na lang. As a collection happens, good for 1 week to. Another collection happens, ito, good for 3 weeks to. Kasi, your burn rate. So, what we did, we looked at our clients one by one. Who of them ba had to close? As in talagang they could not operate because their business really meant physically being at the client premises. Mm-hmm. And we called them one by one. We reassured them. We know you cannot pay us kasi alam namin yung cash nila. Kami gumagawa ng FS nila eh. We know though that we still have to be there for you. We have to file your monthly tax payables, your SSS, your everything. So we said, don't worry. Don't pay us muna, but we will keep doing this for you because we know that you will be back. And when you're back, saka na time, di natin alam kung anong CQ pa to, anong ilang letra pa ang ilalagay before the CQ. I know, my E, my G, my M, whatever CQ it was. At the end of the day, matirang matibay quarantine ito. So we were like, when you're back, saka na tayo mag-usap. Because they're like, when I want to know what are the terms. Saka na. When you're back, usap tayo. We will work on terms that you can afford. And we continued serving them. So, parang sabi na, huwag kayong mag-alala. We trust you. We know you will pay us. And we will also be there to do it. So, may isa pa nga nagsabi sa amin, you know, you were the only supplier who really went out on a limb for me. So, during this lockdown, she managed to close a big contract. Siyempre, the first supplier she paid was us. We didn't even ask for it. She just sent, gulat na gulat kami kasi she was like, I closed the contract and we were the first. She went out on a limb for us. So parang this is where the beauty of SEs comes in. Kasi we had some clients naman na when we look, their businesses doubled. Yung nasa food, meron pang ×4. So you know what they did? Knowing that we were extending credit terms to the ones na hirap, they were like, Tita Pinks, don't worry. Kami naman ang magbabayad na mas mabilis. If they used to pay us like after 60 days or 45, biglang, every 30, every 50 nagbayad. Kasi they're like, sagana kami sa cash ngayon. So we're the ones naman who will pay you faster para you can continue helping the others. Kaya, ay nako, I love this. Talaga, I'm so happy to be in it. So, okay. So that's prepare. Prepare to strengthen kasi babangon tayong lahat. That's in our DNA. We're resilient. Babangon tayong lahat. So, i-claim na natin yung next. Prosper. Talagang hindi enough yung prepare. We will prosper. So now, the ones naman who have enough to weather the crisis and even a bit more pa. This is, you now have parang you can look at a longer time frame in planning. So, the longer time frame means we can invest in our growth talaga. Look for opportunities to consolidate. Baka there are smaller businesses out there who can't survive and they can be part of your business and can really be a good strategic fit because you have the cash to somehow make it happen. Look at the partnerships you can work out kasi you have time to gestate it. Ganon. You review your scaling plans. You might want to invest in your supply chain. Make them stronger, more reliable for you kasi ang liwanag ng scaling plans mo. Maybe it's time for an equipment upgrade. Baka ang dami nagsisale dyan kasi wala siyang sales and that's exactly what you've been looking for. Take that opportunity. Kasi may cash ka. And if your number crunching shows you that it's a good time to invest and buy, do it. These are just discussion starters. Depending on what your industry is and depending on your business and your cash, there's so many things. We just really want to put discussion starters out there.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. So now, I know guys, that's just the cash flow pa lang. We're moving on to your profit and loss analysis naman. So these also have its own set of financial vital signs, which I will go through right now. So we have your realistic revenue streams, your variable cost, fixed cost, contribution margin, managing your operating costs. I'll go through this one by one. But for us SEs, we have one additional vital sign, your happiness rate. This is very important for us, alam natin to. And we'll go into this later on. So let's start with your realistic revenue streams. So now, it's important for you guys to know and assess sa operations nyo ngayon, how much can you really just realistically sell given the landscape of COVID? You might also want to look for opportunities kasi I know most of your clients, or especially those who are non-essentials, the behavior of the market has completely changed. Iba na talaga ngayon. So you might also need to know how your market has changed in their behavior. Kasi then you'll be able to ask yourselves, you'll still be able to deliver the same quality at the same price. So do you need to adjust? Do you have to innovate? So these are things that you need to know when it comes to your revenues kasi it's really gonna be different na eh. So next na is your variable costs versus your fixed costs. So what are variable costs? So these are your costs that increase every time for each unit that you sell. So they change depending on the quantity of the goods the product produces, your business produces. Your fixed costs, on the other hand, are your costs that do not change even with an increase or in decrease in the amount of goods or services that you sell. Yeah, they also don't change when there is a change in production or sales level. And these are expenses that you have to pay independent of any specific business activity. So here's a simple graphical representation of variable and fixed costs. So you have your amount of cost versus the amount of units that you're able to sell. So this line represents your variable costs because these are costs that increase every time you're able for each unit that you're able to sell. Your fixed cost, on the other hand, is just a static line because regardless of how many you sell, you're still gonna incur those costs. Yeah. So then you have your total costs, which is here presented by your variable plus your fixed. Okay. Now, okay. Contribution margin. So wait lang, before we move on to contribution margin, we want to say lang na for here, you might want to move as much of your fixed costs to your variable costs. Kasi then, for every time you're able to sell, you're only gonna be able to incur that cost every time you sell a product. So we're gonna go on later on what costs you can review.
Yeah. Vin, I'll give an example at this point para lang ma-concretize.
Yeah.
So it's an example of a fixed cost that you might want to move to change the nature as var. Meaning, let's say you have a delivery person na full-time dahil, this sometimes we want to protect jobs, but just from a financial standpoint. Let's say may fixed cost ka for delivery. Monthly ang bayad mo. You have a contract with the service, monthly. And then when your sales are really challenged at a time like this, you might want to make it variable, meaning per trip na lang or per sale. Then that way, pagka wala kang sale, wala ka ring expense. Tapos pag may sale, dun lang papasok expense. So those are just some examples of how you can change from a fixed nature to a variable nature. Yun, na sumasabay with the volume lang or incurring sales.
Yeah. Okay. So now let's move on to contribution margin. So this is represented by this is your sales minus your variable costs lang. This can also be computed on a per unit basis. Okay, here's a graphical representation. So your contribution margin, I'll show lang. There, so your total revenues. So this portion, the highlighted portion, represents the portion of your sales that is not consumed by your variable costs, and so contributes to the coverage of your fixed costs. So yeah, the highlighted blue portion is your contribution margin. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So why? Yeah. I guess so. That blue portion, the bigger it is, the more you have to pay that blue portion at the bottom, which is the fixed cost. And then everything in excess is your profit. Later, we will discuss. So why is it important to know and understand your contribution margin? It's also pala known as gross profit also. For some, that might be the more familiar term. A lot kasi of business decisions of go or no go are based on contribution margin on a simplified basis. Of course, there's such a thing called differential accounting, which is really for decisions on investment. Pero that's a completely different webinar. I'm not going to go into that here. But for contribution margin, I'll give a very specific, simple example lang. So, halimbawa, may sales ka, you can make sales of 100,000 of goods or services. And your cost to produce that good or to deliver that service is 60,000. So your contribution margin is 40,000 or 40%. So that 40,000 can now be used to pay your fixed costs kasi that's on top of the cost to produce the service or the good. Okay, so I think there's a next one there, Vin.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. In analyzing your costing, you found pala that, oh my God, dun sa kanina kong 60,000, I forgot to add packaging. So, dun sa kanina, di ba, parang, okay, go. We have 40,000 to contribute. Tapos, nagtataka ka, lumapit ka. Teka lang, ano nangyayari? But parang the more I sell, the more I lose. How did that happen? Hindi yan fiction. We've had people come to us with the Pinky, what's happening? Parang the more I'm selling, the more I'm losing. When we've analyzed, we forgot pala to add packaging, forgot to add delivery, ganon. Tapos, like, nandun na lang lahat sa credit card na pumasok yung Lalamove, hindi na add. So, if pagka ganon na, let's say when you added everything, naging 110,000 pala, you're better off pala not producing and not selling anything. Kasi now, aside from paying your fixed costs, you have to cover pa the 10,000 that's lugi here. So sa example, right now, somebody asks you, can you make masks for me? Budget namin 10 pesos per mask. You have na your sewing machines. You're renting your facility na, you're paying rent. You're paying for your Wi-Fi, everything. They're all there. Those are fixed costs already. So you want the contribution margin to pay for it. Sabi mo, yes, I'm gonna take that order of masks na 10 pesos para may kita. So you compute. If you can produce the mask and deliver it, at alam mo rin, compute mo, ano bang minimum volume para sulit, so that the 10% selling price will yield a positive contribution margin, like kanina, in the earlier slide na positive, then go ka, you do it because you'll gain. But if you will end up saying, after I add my plastic pala, that plastic that I need to wrap the masks in, and then I have to buy pala, and then I have to put Lalamove, I have to buy pala the mask also for the one who will deliver. Yung pag inad mo na lahat and negative, then you negotiate for a better price. At kung ayaw niya mag-budge, you have to say you can't do it kasi malulugi ka lang lalo. You're better off just paying the salary, not doing anything. So in general, assuming you can collect, kasi if you cannot collect, like talagang tataob siya or that person will run away kasi hindi mo kilala, kahit positive contribution margin pa yan, magiging negative. Pero assuming you can collect, the general rule is, if contribution margin is positive, it's a go.
Yeah.
There.
Okay. So now let's move on to managing your operating expenses. So with this one, you can review, so you have your expected outflows, di ba? So suyurin mo doon lahat, like from your rent, your payroll, utilities, all of your expenses that you incurred to keep operating. Suyurin mo ngayon, given this pandemic and your new way of operating, this still which are still applicable and essential to you. Kasi baka mamaya, yung mga hindi ka na kailangan, like you can cut some of your subscriptions kasi you're not using that platform as much anymore, or you're not renting, maybe you can talk to your landlord and like skip out on rent because you're not using the warehouse anymore. So yon, what are still applicable to you guys. So you can see dyan yung taxes nyo, wag nyo pa rin kakalimutan, it's still there. It's very important you remember to pay your taxes because those always come with penalties if you neglect. And also, you might ask yourselves, you have to know if there are expenses that you might not have been able to include. So for example, baka may mga hindi kayo nasama na communication allowances because kunyari your employees are working from home and part of the arrangement is you're subsidizing their allowances to have data so they have internet connection so they can continue working, or like your delivery expenses for Lalamove, Grab, for shipping, ganyan. So just make sure that you're able to account for each and every expense when you're managing your operating expense. Okay. So with that, we've discussed our top line now, which are your revenues, your contribution margin, and we've talked about your expenses. So after that, after you get your net income na, so revenue minus your expense. Okay? Right. So picking up from our contribution margin graph, so kanina yung graphical representation. As I've mentioned earlier, this is represented by the portion of sales or revenue that is not covered, that is not consumed by your variable cost. So now your net income takes into account your total cost, which is your variable cost plus your fixed cost. Okay? So that's why your total cost line starts at the fixed cost line, that dashed line. Kasi and it's parallel, as you can see, it's also parallel to your variable cost line. So it's fixed cost plus your variable. So what is the portion here, yung excess of your revenues over your total cost? So if your revenue line is above your total cost, which is represented by the green line, that's your profit. And then if your total cost is less than your revenue line, which is highlighted by the red, that's your loss. So yun.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you may ask at this point, so what's a good profit or what's a good net income? People ask me that, Tita, ano ba? 5%, 20%, 30%? So I always say it's really based on industry, for one, because like like luxury, ay nako, pwedeng ang taas-taas. But in general, like it depends on industry. Kasi yung iba, like distribution business, ng FMCG, 1% lang yan, pero bawi sa volume, bawi sa ikot. Ganun. So, if you can make your money go faster, like your snowball gets bigger faster, then kahit maliit, pero madalas ang ikot, mabilis ang ikot, okay pa rin. Pag matagal, gusto mo mas mataas yung margin ng konti. So it really depends on the industry, the speed of the ikot also, and the volumes. And then to us SEs, of course, because we're SEs, we generally are ready to accept talaga a lower, like iba sabi, ay kailangan 20% tayo, parang okay naman kami sa 10 or sa 7 kasi we're sustainable, we're happy, we're ready to accept lower rates kasi we put a premium on our happiness rate. We measure our impact and we get more joy from that. Our expenses for training are normally like through the roof. Our expenses for community development are way higher than other businesses. Kasi we want to see these happy faces. These are like the partners of our clients. Our partners, our clients. So kung ganyan yung mga mukha na nakikita namin, masaya kami. And of course, having said that though, we still need the financial net income to be sustainable. Kasi hindi naman pwedeng pure joy. But we want, that net income to be sustainable, the financial net income, and our passion and happiness rate ang talaga to fuel us for the challenges to come. Yeah, so that's for the profit and loss. No? So we're done with cash flow, like how to compute it, and profit and loss. And now punta tayo sa balance sheet. Last na talaga to. Hindi naman, pero okay. So the balance sheet. As a finance professional, I have to say it kasi kami finance professionals that if I can only look at one financial statement, I will look at the balance sheet because it's the best indicator of the state of your company. Like sabi mo, I don't know how much the net income is because it doesn't say it there. If you compare two balance sheets, you can see how much they grew. You see the net income. If you compare two balance sheets, you will know actually the story, yung kwento ng cash nila, kung paano dumami or paano naubos. Makikita mo by comparing two, kung saan nanggaling ang funding at saan napunta. Ang daming nagagawa by looking at it. You will even, and most importantly, you can see if you're an investor or you're asking for an investor, they will see what's your ability to pay your obligations. They will see how you are progressing. Pero, so sabihin nyo, kung ito yung pinaka-powerful pala na FS, why did you tackle cash kanina? Why not go straight here? We tackled cash kasi in times of crisis, and maraming crisis pag startup tayo, di ba? You really have to watch your cash muna, more than anything. But eventually, learning to read your balance sheet will equip you for growth for the future. You need a strong balance sheet to weather a crisis. So ngayon sa panahon na, what is a strong balance sheet? Ay, that's a full webinar again, Patch. But for now, dahil apaw-apaw, we will just look at two important ratios in a balance sheet that you will look at. Very related to your what we discussed kanina, saan magagaling yung cash. So, your current ratio tells you ano yung mga utang ko na kailangan kong bayaran within the year. And will show you if you have the ability to pay that. And then it will also show you ano yung mga utang that will fall due within the next 5 years or 10 years. And do I have the assets to pay that? And if I don't, will I be able to build up enough to pay that? Diyan lang muna tayo. So we go. So in the current ratio, so yung current assets, these are your cash right now, and anything that's quickly turned into cash. That means that's your accounts receivable, yung collectible mo, and yung inventaryo mo on hand na pwede mo nang ibenta na mas mabilis nagiging cash. And then, ang current liabilities mo are the things that you have to pay right away. The sweldo, which is due on the 15th and on the 30th. Your payables, your kuryente, your internet, dahil baka putulan ka. Ganon. So, when you look at those as example these numbers, so the ideal ratio that you want to reach is 2:1. Balik din ako. So 2:1. That means for every 1 peso of utang or payable, you have 2 pesos of cash plus assets that are immediately convertible to cash to pay it. Parang makakatulog ka ng konting sa, I have 12,500 in payables falling due next month. But between my cash and my sure collection and inventory that I can sell, I have 25,000. So that you have enough allowance to be able to pay your dues that are falling. I mean your payables that are falling due. So it's generally considered a good ratio. Now, pag ang ratio mo masyado mataas, let's say 4:1 yan. Baka naman your asset needs to be converted. Your cash needs to be converted into something na will generate income. Kasi parang naglagay ka lang sa mattress kung sobrang taas naman. You don't really need to have a very high current ratio. Less than that, medyo sleepless nights ng konti. Pagka saktong-sakto or less than 1 na ratio, sleepless nights yun. Long-term naman, ibig sabihin, what are your non-current? From the term long-term, no? It's your long-term debt ratio. So, it's your vehicles, it's your equipment, the assets that are not quickly turned into cash. But if the long-term loans are like if you have a 5-year loan, yung due this year, current. Yung due from year 2 to year 5, nasa long term. And when you see that, I have enough assets to pay that, that's good. That's what banks will look like. That's what investors look at. That's what people who care about your stability will look at also, both your current and your long-term ratio. Kasi yung current, alam nila na pag yung current ratio mo mababa, they're like, if I'm going to invest in this company, I have to infuse cash tomorrow. So it makes a difference for them. So your intangibles actually also form part of your long-term assets kasi it's not immediately changeable to cash, but there's a way that you can cash on that. So again, 2 pesos worth of assets, long-term assets for every peso of long-term liability is a generally accepted good ratio. Okay, so now balance sheets generally are just like, it shows your financial condition, if you can face your obligations. But we would like to direct your way of looking at a balance sheet in a different way also. I really see it as a treasure trove of opportunities. So at a time like this, masuyurin nyo yung balance sheet nyo. Tignan, assuming meron kayo. Kung wala, magsulat-sulat na kayo dyan. Kahit yellow pad lang yan. Suyurin mo yung balance sheet mo. The questions you will ask yourself. Sige nga, like, what do I have that has value here? What is a value that I can still use? So yesterday, di ba, you had sessions on opportunity scanning, opportunity screening, seizing. You do that, but and then you decide what to seize on. But there are opportunities inside your company right now na baka lang na-overlook nyo sa sobrang katingin ng outside. I have opportunities to play inside. Like, example, pagtingin ko dyan, my vehicles, wala akong nade-deliver ngayon eh. Hindi ko siya nagagamit. Pero my gosh, ang dami pa lang pwedeng i-deliver dyan na sitaw, bataw, patani, kundol, patola. So what if I rent out my vehicles to deliver? What if in the future pala, I won't need 3, I just need 1, and you sell the 2. That's opportunities for cash, or there's opportunities for business at temporary. Do you have sewing machines now na baka you're doing fashion items and cannot sell it? you pivot to PPEs. Two of our clients have done it already na fashion items and pivot to PPEs. So my God, they're so busy. You can also do a skills audit of your people. Ano kaya pang kaya nilang gawin na will allow you to pivot? Lalo na kung, especially if you have community-based enterprises. Right now, you're making bags, for example. But people are looking for market baskets to put the vegetables in because they're sending it as gifts like noon Mother's Day. Ang daming ganon. So, baka doing a skills audit of our partners can help us pivot the business. Or maybe a skills audit of yourself na parang, oh, I have these networks pala and I'm not using it. Or you have a strong brand. You're a non-essential right now, but you have a very strong brand. Maybe you can partner with someone who has the ability to go to market quick, but does not have the strength of your brand or doesn't have the online platform that you have. And if you partner together, biglang, boom, you have a new business. So you renew lang what you have inside. So we go now to forecasting and budgeting. So when people say this, natatakot sila kasi normally numbers ang iniisip. But I will take it away from this kasi for me, we just use the tools that we gave you to forecast. The most important thing right now, like a good forecast begins with really knowing the environment that your business operates in. You have to know where you will play and how you will play in it. The numbers will follow from there. Kasi hindi naman pasuntok sa buwan o 1 million. Saan magagaling? You have to know the environment. So this quote that we put there, the best way to predict the future is to create it. It's attributed to two people, magkalayong centuries. Abraham Lincoln, we all know who he is, and Peter Drucker. So Peter Drucker, I mean, those of you who studied management would know him. Imposible hindi kayo nag-aral, hindi nyo siya na-encounter in studying it. So he's written over 30 books about management, starting in the 1940s pa lang. He's known for a very integrative and holistic view of management. And his writings actually predicted many of the major management developments of the late 20th century, including privatization, decentralization, the decisive importance of marketing, and the emergence of the information society with the necessity for lifelong learning of each and every one. So imagine in 1959, he already coined the term knowledge worker. And later, he considered it to be the knowledge worker productivity to be the next frontier of management. What is a knowledge worker? It's someone whose job involves handling or using information. Isn't that what all this data analytics is about now? 1959, he predicted it na. Kasi nga, the best way to predict the future, part of it is really to create it. So now at this point, where are we all now? We are creating our future. No one knows how it fall out eh. So nasa discarte natin lahat, anong gagawin natin? And the best way to know what is to come, to know what is coming, is to be an active participant. By creating your future, you're an active player in the events as they unfold. We're not waiting for things to happen to us. We create it. Sabi mo siguro, Tita Pinky, forecasting, kasama yan dyan magsisimula yung forecasting. Kasi you have to know what you will write na numbers. So you have to know what you want, you know what you're willing to do to get it, so that you can help shape what that future will hold for yourself, for your business, for your partners, for your beneficiaries. Kasi you're the entrepreneur. You're the one who will dream it up. Dream it up. You be steadfast, be persistent, and don't give up. Ang daming trials nito. Sige lang, sama-sama tayo. So go. Dream up your pivots. Find new ways of doing things. Find new ways to reach your existing market. Baka sila pa rin naman ang market mo. You just have to reach them in a different way. Find new markets. Create new distribution channels. Ang dami pa. Find new ways of whatever it takes to prepare your company for the better normal. Gusto ko yung patch, hindi lang new normal, the better normal. And then, the budgeting tools that we gave you, the cash plan, the profit and loss statement, those are just tools to put in the numbers based on what you can dream up. Dream up nyo muna talaga what that pivot will be, what that better normal will be. And then you can forecast it and put it into numbers using tools. So it's just, so it's a fancy term, but it's really putting in all the revenues that you think will happen based on your pivots, all the costs that you know you will incur, and how quickly the cash will go out and how quickly the cash will come in. And that way you will have a budget and a forecast for your company. So it's time for us now to do a summary of our actionable points and to close it.
So we'll just quickly go through this. We'll be giving you a copy of the presentation after this. So these are just guide questions that you guys can quickly go through, which we've discussed earlier, the concepts each concept that we've discussed earlier, from cash flow to profit and loss and to your balance sheet statement. So for example, yung sa burn rate nyo, how much are you actually disbursing in cash each month? What outflows can and cannot be delayed? So those kinds of examples you guys can reflect upon after this. And then we'll send these to you guys para you can keep thinking about it later on. So ito then.
So
yeah, welcome.
we will, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go on. Okay.
No, after this, sorry.
Yeah, so there. So yun, for the balance sheet, so what opportunities do your balance sheet show you? So suyurin nyo nga, as Tita Pinky said earlier. And maybe this will enable you to know where you can pivot. So yun.
Yeah, so we will close with, we all study management and it's about doing things right. If we want to be efficient, we want to be effective. But the future, with economic and ecological challenges and with the more conscious mindsets of the young, are challenging us to leadership, not just management. And leadership is about values, about doing the right things. So as SEs, to not just survive, but to thrive, our challenge is we want to do the right things right. We want to do the right things well, driven by our mission and our values. Thank you so much. We're ATBP. We live for faith, family, country and our dreams.
Okay.
We're ready for Q&A.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for that presentation. Grabe, jam-packed din.
I hope you guys hindi pa kayo overloaded. Hindi pa kayo nag-nosebleed.
Hindi pa naman.
Kain-kain nila yan.
Pero may isa question. Feeling ko overwhelmed pa yung mga tao. But to those who are watching now, please do send in your questions to our discussion box if you have any follow-up questions or clarifications to Tita Pinky and Vini for this afternoon. I have one. Actually, this is something that was discussed earlier during the beginning of the presentation about extending your cash.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You mentioned kasi that when you extend your cash, you want to look at the needs of your people, your customers, and then the government. Yeah. Is it in that order or like
we say in preserving, no? Kasi syempre yung iba preserve pa. Walang babayaran. Pero dahil SEs tayo, isipin talaga natin, tao natin, customers natin, government. Parang you can't take care of one and leave another eh.
Mm-hmm.
Siyempre we prioritize yung tao, di ba? Pero kung iwanan mo yung kliyente mo, adi next month wala na siya. Mm-hmm. Kung hindi ka naman magbayad ng government payables at nagka-penalty ka pa, lumaki lalo. So talagang prioritizing. Medyo biggest fire siya. But that's why you scramble, you do everything. Kasi the important thing is to know it. You have to know what it is, what you need, the minimum that you need for those three, versus the cash that you have now, and say, okay, kulang. Saan ko kukunin yung balance? Mangolekta tayo. Talaga, I kept telling them, the squeaky door gets the oil. But right now, everybody, you have to remember, everyone is on preservation mode also. Yeah. Everyone. So how do we collect from them, diba? So that's like, to us, it was like, okay, we have enough until June 15. But let's try. Kaya hinanap namin, sino ba yung doing well ngayon? Doon tayo makiusap. Yeah. Baka naman you can be the ones paying us faster because we're very transparent with them. That's another thing pala, like transparency helps. So when we tell them, kasi we wanted to pay everyone, and this, talagang they were like, ay, tita, I'm gonna help you. So transparency help na those who can. So I can't really say patch that there's an order because they're coexisting for the company to survive.
Yeah.
Right. So isip ko lang kasi like, for example, for an SE or for actually any entrepreneur na, okay, by the end of this month, I have salaries to pay, I have also customers, and then I also have these taxes, government, SSS contributions. So parang if I only have, let's say, a limited amount of money for that month, cash flow, parang, how do I allocate this?
Scramble. Hanap ka ng papasok pa talaga. Kaya,
and I guess negotiate din, no?
Negotiate with the ones. You know, we even went through where some of our team, hindi lang some of our team, I have to say, the team said, Tita, we're happy to take a pay cut temporarily. Kasi wala namang kaming pamasahe na ginagastos. Eh kung yung gastos sa pamasahe, kaya yun muna. Let's reduce that. And then, they were like, if things get better, pay us that differential. If they don't, that's okay. That's our taya. That's our contribution. And so just knowing that they were willing to do that, and then knowing that some clients said, yeah, we'll pay you faster. And it was really a negotiation one by one. So bigayan, major tulungan. And in the end, then the government also, they postponed some deadlines, diba? So it was everybody pitching in, such that parang we ended up, we said, teka lang, ba't parang dumami pa tong cash versus our plan? Kasi nga, and we ended up pa nga like yung in-offer na pay cut. We didn't even do it anymore kasi we got the government, the subsidy, then we got clients pa who paid more. Yeah, but the most important step is to know it and then find ways. Kasi we're entrepreneurs, that's what we're sanay to do. That's what we're used to doing. Find ways.
I also like what you talked when you talked about in goodwill, like the examples also that you put. You mentioned about and being understanding also of the situation when you talk with your own clients in ATBP, saying that okay, I know the situation now, and you might not be able to pay at the moment, but I know that we can survive this, and then we just talk later when everything kind of settles down.
And that's
I think
how
I noticed that, and I think parang maganda siyang, we tend to forget that, or some might use, since we are all in survival mode, parang everyone fending for themselves, diba? But I think it's also a good reminder that you can still be kind and compassionate during this time, and it will actually go a long way too.
Exactly. Kasi at the end, relationships na lang talaga to. We can all talk about money, and people come to me sometimes with financial plan. They want to consult, and then I ask them about the relationships. And they're like, no, I want you to put it on paper, numbers. No, I know my numbers will be more accurate if I know the state of the relationship. Diba? Like so. We know, kaya nga we didn't even expect that client to close a contract. She really said, you went out on a limb for me. I'm going out on a limb for you. You're the first we're going to pay. We didn't expect that. We expected to get something from her, siguro mga July or August. We got it last week. An amount that we didn't expect just because, kindness begets kindness. Let's still be who we are. Let's be true to ourselves. Diba? Numbers lang yan. We be true to ourselves. We will be okay. Tulungan tayo.
Okay. We have a question here. Well, first is thank you, Dao. Thank you from Christine too. Thank you for the presentation.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And then she has a question. Where can we find the industry standards for contribution margin or net income? And any tips on how to manage and calculate COGS in manufacturing per product basis?
Yes.
Wow.
Okay. So, una, where you can find it, parang it's really industry basis. Tingnan mo yung mga FS of companies that are operating in those, and you will see some commonalities na like 60% is a healthy one or whatever. No? Now, how do you compute? Oh my darling. product costing is a whole 3-hour session workshop that we give with Actual. The thing that I can give as a tip, because we don't have the 3 hours, is to really know your costs very, very well. And, it's my favorite, line by painful line. Hindi ka pwedeng generalize and say, like let's say you have 10 products, right? You can't generalize and say, in general, it's 60%. My cost is 60% and my margin is 40%. Because, why I say you can't generalize? Because even if at the end it turns out to be the average, what if you have one product that's actually making you 90%, and you have a product that actually, dahil may nakaligtaan ka, you forgot something important, is negative, right? What if that negative one turns out to be your best seller and you're selling the most of that? It can really drag you down. So you have to do your contribution margin product by product, service by service. It will pay off. Oh my God, it's line by painful line, but it will pay off. And when I say know it, talagang suyurin mo detail by detail. There's, as I said earlier, there's one who came to us, Tita Pinky, I don't understand. The more I sell, the more I lose. And we looked at it. It was just two things. She forgot to add the cost of the box that the thing comes in, and forgot to add Lala Move. She was like, pasok, it just kept entering her credit card. Tapos nung inad na niya yung from her credit card to her FS when she was gonna reimburse herself na from the company. What happened? Yun. So those are the two tips I will give right now. Line by painful line. Each one, because hindi naman equal yung volumes eh. So you have to do it one by one and be very thorough about it. No shortcuts. No shortcuts. Put in everything.
Thank you. Well, we're about to end. Siguro yung last question ko, and also after that, your final words. No? My last question siguro would be, so after everything, no? So after this talk, now when they go back to their, syempre not go back to their homes because they are in their homes, but like after this, when they start thinking tonight, what would you advise, like the first thing that they can do? So with everything that was said today, what is the first step kaya, the best first step to take?
First step, do the cash plan. Because when you do that cash plan that we gave the template, you will know if you have money. Kasi yung ginawa ni Vini doon na weekly or monthly, you will know if you have money until July, until August, until October, or until next year, or until next week. Once you know that, pwede ka na kaya magplano. Diba? So if you see that, ay, until next week na lang ako, your first scramble is, where will I get more cash? And if I cannot get more cash, I cannot find more sales, I cannot collect, what can I cut? Talagang you'll go there. You'll have to go there. Now, if you see that, wait, I have 3 months. GCQ na next week. What can I do? Like, na better, na still safe. Or, anong hindi ko na take advantage ng opportunity? Na I could have gone pala to market with this if I just partnered with this one or whatever, ganon. And then, like, my people are not as busy. What internal strengthening pala could I have done that I didn't do? And maybe I can start it now. Like, if I did pala a manual of operations, imbis na mag-train ako, mag-spend ako ng 2 weeks ang train ng bagong tao, I can actually have this. It's in photos. Ganon. So the first step is the cash plan. That's why it was the first we tackled. It's your cash plan. And because that will allow you to know how much time you have.
Where you are now.
So, if you haven't done it pa. Now, if you've done it, do it well. Like, suyurin mo talaga. And then after that, you'll know your next step.
So good homework would be to fill out that spreadsheet that he sent. Meron pang medyo may pahabol na question dito.
Sure.
So now we figured that out. Ito naman, I think about new. So is there a financial service to assist startups related to overall detailed cost estimation prior to launching? So I think ito meron na siyang naiisip. And then
Ikaw sumagot.
Cost estimation prior to launching.
Si Pacha kangiti sa akin. Gusto niya ako talaga magsabi. Actually, yeah. So, that's really product costing.
Yeah.
So, based on our experience in ATBP, it's the number one problem of SEs. In fact, prior to this lockdown, when we were giving actual seminars in our office, because we did an FGD, we contacted people, and based on the consulting, yung mga nilalapit sa aking Tita Pinky, oh my God, 9 out of 10 was product costing. Remember, Patch, when I taught entrepreneurial finance in the MESIDEV class, and I tallied the problems, product costing came out. So, if I attend a webinar on product costing, no talaga, if you have something in mind na, isulat mo talaga everything that will go into that product. Lahat ng binili mo, the cost to buy it from Divisoria and bring it to your house, the cost to have it delivered, yung time mo, time ng taong gagawa, magkano per piece rate na binayad mo, yung talagang walkthrough. If that's what I would do with a non-finance person, i-walk through mo. I-document mo habang wino-walk through mo.
Tapos
para wala kang makalimutan. Lagyan mo ng presyo bawat isa. Then at the end, di ba, you have your cost. Ngayon sasabihin mo, hindi naman pwede, sige, because this is my cost, I want to make 40%, I'll sell it. Siyempre, titingin ka in the market. What do similar products sell for? Baka naman, I cannot sell because I'm twice more expensive than everyone. Then you will look at them and say, how were they able to sell it at that price? I cannot even produce it at that price. Balikan mo ngayon yung costing mo. Na-overestimate ko kasi imbis pala na I don't know, like I didn't negotiate, I did buy it in bulk or whatever, then you have to go back. It's a back and forth until you get to the right. It's not a one-step thing. Because there's your cost, but there's also what the market can pay for the product that you have.
All right. Okay, sige. Let's go. We're almost time's almost up. So let's spend the remaining minutes for your final words. But before that, I'd like to thank you, Vini and Tita Pinky, for spending the afternoon with us and taking the time also to prepare a really good presentation and to parang let these concepts, financial concepts, be understandable by mere mortals like us.
We didn't know how detailed you wanted us to be in finance, but I thought that if we just give nice statements, you can find it anywhere. So it's like, sige, Vin, let's go. Let's just try to make it as
So thank you for having us as well, Patch. It's just an honor to be here.
It's our pleasure.
Other SEs out there.
And this won't be the last for us collaborating on these topics.
Sure.
So, siguro may pwede na rin natin semi-announce na we will work on together more in the next few months, weeks, and thinking of new topics, kasi there are so many things that we can cover with regards to finance and accounting, and not a lot of people, especially SEs, don't have access to this kind of thing.
Hindi lang new topics, but also like if for those who really want detail, we can break up what we had now. We can break it up into a product costing workshop, a webinar, content, whatever. But we could really break it up into yung para workshop style, and they can really do it.
Kumbaga patikim pa lang ito.
And if you have you can check our website. It's atbpco.org.
How can they reach you?
I think we have one for it. It's atbpco.org. Or you can email us at atbpco@gmail.com. We're happy to help SEs talaga anytime. That's what we're there for. That's the mission.
Okay, what's your final message to our attendees and anyone who will be viewing this recording in the future?
Vin.
I just like to thank everyone. We're really here to help other SEs because our mission is really to help you guys increase your impact and your mission, to really spread your mission to benefit more and more people. Kasi especially at this time, I think it's a collaborative environment na more than ever, which I'm so happy about. So, yeah, I hope to see everyone again in the next installment or whatever project with Spark. Yeah.
My last words have to do with our name. Kaya naging at iba pa. Kasi a lot of startups will look very well at their product. They want to do their branding, their marketing, pero yung finance at iba pa, etc. Hindi pinapansin. But that fine print na hindi pinansin makes the difference between being viable and not viable. So, yung etc. na yan, it actually is very important. So, and I know you can do it, and because you want to, anything that you set your heart on, you'll be able to do so. Study it well, or if you can, partner with people who know how to do it, and then basta give it the it deserves para na you're really on your way to viability. So, and I know that you can do it. Talagang, I've so much faith in the entrepreneur now. Who saved us in this time? It's the small entrepreneurs who were so quick to make sure we had food and so I have so much faith in the small entrepreneur. Go.
Beautiful. Again, thank you so much. And thank you for everyone for tuning in for this session. So we will have our final session for the Sparkability Summit happening at 4 p.m. So for now, you can go grab a drink, prepare some coffee for our last session, and we'll see you then at 4 p.m. with James Fernando talking about e-commerce. So again, thank you again, and see you later. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Vini.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice weekend.